I'm making a big deal out of this for this very specific reason. They can tell the difference, but they choose not to. And all it is information. So grippy, so great. Is this thing even in place? Oh my goodness. It is loose than a gray goose.
Hi, YouTube.
The disrespect. What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. I know it's been a minute, probably what, like 2 months and some change. Gee, like what's happening this year? Like we're almost halfway through the month of May, just like that. But again, I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for tuning in. And today we're going to be talking about the M&P 2.0 4¼ inch or their full-size version. What do I get out of the box? 3 mags, 3 extra back straps, 7 optic plates, a variety of screws, and yeah, that's pretty much what you get when you pick this up. Now, this specific model is a little special in some ways. It comes with suppressor height night sight. I like them, they're very impressive. They're probably the brightest sights or iron sights that I have out of all my suppressor height night sights or night sights. The other unique thing about this one is that it comes with plates, but not just the plastic plates that, you know, we've grown accustomed to with Smith & Wesson, but these plates are actually metal, which was a surprise to me. But I think I kind of understand because we LE or LEOs, they get a special treatment. You know, they have, as a matter of fact, there's a M&P that comes already pre-cut for an acro, and I think it's only limited to law enforcement officers, but I believe that's the reason why these plates are actually metal and not plastic, because this firearm was a law enforcement unused or unissued firearm, and it was in their buyback program. I don't know if you remember, towards the end of last year I talked about the ammo craziness that was going on at the time and how people were losing their minds. I mentioned that I went to get some ammo and ended up picking up something. Well, this is that something. I don't want to talk about the price of this firearm. Just to give you an idea of how much I picked this up for, just think about the PSA dagger. Yes, so I got this for the price of a dagger. You can't beat that. The dagger does not have this quality or QC level or reputation. So yeah, it was just too good to pass up on. Let's talk about the good. In terms of dimensions, I think Smith & Wesson found like the sweet spot, because this thing is like, it's a full-size handgun, but doesn't really lend itself in that full-size kind of footprint. It's closer to a compact than a full-size. As a matter of fact, there are some guys that would run the M&P 2.0 compact slide on this frame, and it sits flush right here with the dust cover. And what they end up having is their version of the 19X, which is interesting and also tempting. I thought about that, but yeah, I think this thing is great. I mean, if you just put it next to PDP, for instance, you know, slide length, it's pretty much the same length. But this has a 4-inch barrel and this is a 4¼ But yeah, they're pretty much the same length, almost the same size. I mean, it's just, oop, didn't mean to do that. Just sitting them right there. Not a huge difference. And the reason why I bring up the size comparison is because, well, this is my P10F. Next to my P10F, I mean, just look at that. I think CZ was on a mission, man. They just wanted it to be the longest thing ever. Their version of full size, their version of full size. And yes, guys, I'm all aware they have a 5-inch version. I'm not really a big fan of that. I like this one. But, you know, in the full size realm, this thing is a monster. It's almost intimidating in terms of like carrying this, but I can easily see myself carry this one, you know, during cold months. And while we're on that subject, let me bring this up here. This is my CZ P10C. I mean, just look at them, but look at the slides. Not much of a difference there. I think this firearm really lends itself in a sweet spot. It's pretty much just in between these three when you lay them flat like that. This is where it lands. I like where this falls between my different firearms. So there's that. I love the size. I love the way this thing shoots. And I've said it before in my, wasn't really a review, but I had my friend's M&P 2.0 compact with the new trigger for a weekend. And Man, that thing was so smooth. I made a video talking about how if they had that trigger before, I wouldn't even grab the PDP, I would go for this. And yeah, that thing is still true to this day to me. Among all of my firearms, this is probably one of the smoothest shooting polymer frame handgun out of the box without any tweaks, any changes, improvements, enhancements, nothing. Just out of the box, this thing is well tuned, man. And that 16-pound spring is just mwah, chef's kiss. Another pro of this is the controls. Most of them are very easy to get to. You have ambidextrous slide stop, slide release. Mag release that really took me some adjusting because I couldn't get to it, you know, from having a regular grip and then trying to drop it. You can see right there, I kind of struggle. I really have to, you know, go from up here to like down there to get to it. And another good thing about these controls, especially for myself, is that they're very similar to what I have on my 509 Tactical. As a matter of fact, this thing gives me deja vu, but I'm gonna make another video about that. So we've got that. The controls are pretty easy to get to, manipulate. The slide is to manipulate. While we're on this subject, one thing I like about the slide, first of all, I've always said it and I'll say it again, this is probably the best looking slide straight from the factory out of any polymer frame handgun that I know. The most aesthetically pleasing and functional slide I've seen. I mean, this thing, especially when they decided to run the serrations all the way up here, for me, that was it. Perfect. Right there. Another cool thing about the slide, instead of using the actual lever itself, they have an extended arm on the side here that's sitting there just waiting for the slide to go back. So if I were to bring this up here, just pay attention to that and watch what it does. Bam, right there. Now the cool thing about this is, as opposed to most of the firearms I own, if I were to pull the slide on most of them, I will have to pretty much, see here it engages it already. Most will require bottoming out the slide pretty much before that lock happens. So I like this because if you, especially like if you're weekended, of course it's not gonna, you know, it's still a 16-pound spring, but the travel is shortened. I mean, the slide is, boom, you're in there. So I think it's pretty cool. Pretty unique design. I will give him that. I don't think I've seen that elsewhere. So let's get to the frame. This is, you know, home run. We're not even gonna spend too much time here. In the history of grips, this is the grippiest, hands down, the most aggressive grip texture out of the box. I don't want to say best because some people feel some type of way about it. As a matter of fact, when I first picked it up, I felt some type of way about it, but I ended up removing the tape and I'm used to it. So grippy, so great. Anyways, overall, I think it's a decent pickup, especially for the price. No brainer for me. And I wanted it in full size because with the compacts, when I drop the mag, it doesn't like drop freely sometimes because it gets stuck here against the bottom of my hand. So I wanted a full size grip. It's never an issue. Now, of course, M&Ps have been around. Reliability is insane. But if you're a gun guy, I'm sure you've seen all the torture tests done to this firearm and what it's able to do in adverse conditions. So pretty good firearm, especially for the price and, you know, all the features and the value that you get for the money you pay for this. I think this is pretty good. Also, the aftermarket for the M&P is, I was gonna say second to none, but I have to say second to Glock. It's pretty nice. I mean, I know SIG is creeping up there, but yeah, this thing is, you know, second to Glock. Pretty nice. You get some great parts from, I'm not gonna mention all these guys because it can take all day. With that said, this firearm doesn't come without its flaws. I don't know, man, maybe it's just my luck. You know, with firearms lately, because it's not just one. If you're subscribed to my channel, you know I have a problem child right now that I'm dealing with and trying to get to fall in line, you know, to get with the program. Let's talk about the obvious here. This is not the hinge trigger that comes with most M&Ps outside of the newer redesigned ones. Nothing against the trigger, very good. It's the shape. The trigger shoe was just, who came up with that? Like seriously. That thing Yo, that thing looked like a clown shoe, man. It's just so hard for me to not picture that. Every time I look at it, it's just like, yo. What? Anyways, so that had to go. And that's the only reason why I have this one installed. It's not because the trigger was terrible or whatever. I actually really liked it. Very predictable, crisp break. The reset was kind of mad, but that's like with most M&Ps anyways. But because the shoe was terrible, my goal was just to, you know, get a better feeling shoe, preferably flat. So I started to look online, and you know the obvious, you know, choices. It's Apex. As a matter of fact, I think the M&P is probably I don't know, like all these aftermarket trigger companies, they make triggers, right, for different manufacturers or firearms or whatever. But I don't know what's in the Smith Wesson waters, but the way that this platform responds to aftermarket trigger is just insane. So here I have the Timney Alpha competition trigger. This thing is not your mama's friend. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you want something so bad, and then when you get your hands on it, you're like, what was I thinking? This is not that it's bad, but it's so good it's becoming scary. And that's what I'm getting with this trigger. This thing pulls under 3 pounds. It's the closest thing to it, and I kid you not, this reminds me of my AR Gold trigger on my Stag. It's insane, man. This is the grip. I don't know if you can pick up that click right there. That's all the grip. From there, this thing just goes off. Reset. Grip right there. Almost feels like you're clicking on the mouse. That's it. Breaks. I'm scared. But what I like about it, it didn't require too much. It was just trigger shoe, the sear, and the striker safety block, whatever the name of that thing is. So those are the 3 things I replaced. No changes in the springs or anything like that. I don't even like messing with springs. I learned from my FN. But I think the sear is a little too good for my for my own good, that I may have to put the OEM back just so I can add a little more weight to this pull, because this is insane. One thing I wish they could have done better, but I don't know, maybe it's done by design, but one thing I noticed is that even though the pull is very light, the take up has been shortened some. I'm gonna try to do this in a way that you guys can see. I'm gonna go ahead and pull on the trigger. After the break, there's a lot of over travel. So let me reset this. And that right there was a reset. And I can go ahead again and break. Reset right there and break. I still have a little bit of room to go there. Of course, you know, under live fire, you don't notice that, but just a thought. Anyways, I said all that to say this: the clown shoe had to leave. Now, the only thing that I'm dealing with here is in my last range trip, I noticed that it wouldn't reset. I had maybe 2 or 3 failures to reset, where gun goes off, slide cycles, comes back. I'm actually pinning the trigger on purpose. I started to pin the trigger on purpose just to see if it would do that, and I was able to replicate. Pulled through, it just pulled clean, as if the trigger nip, well, not as if, like the trigger actually never reset. I need to put more rounds through it just to make sure that it's, you know, it wasn't just a fluke, or I don't know, maybe it needs some break-in. I think I have about 200 and some change through this. It's running, but it's not as reliable as I would love for it to be. Let me take a quick break, man. Woo!
A few moments later.
Today it's pretty warm outside. I need to go for a swim, so I'm gonna wrap this up with this. When I first got this gun, the moment I got in my car, something just told me to dry fire it. I was dry firing it in the store, and this is a store where maybe 80% of my guns come from. So I trust these guys, and they've never sold me a lemon. Open the box again, dry fire one more time, and I noticed the same thing that was happening to my PDP when I made this video. So immediately I knew something is wrong here. I get home, it stopped. I was like, all right, cool. I'll take it to the range. Maybe just a few rounds through it, we'll fix it. I go to the range. I was only able to fire 5 rounds. nothing else. And it almost felt unsafe. Like I didn't want to keep shooting it and end up with some weird malfunctions and the gun blowing up in my hands. I stopped shooting it, went home, took it apart. I actually recorded. One thing that, aside from me dealing with this thing, one thing that aggravates me is that I had all of those things documented. I was actually editing this video. So the version like this is not your original version. This is a take 2. Of a take 1 where I may have said some things that, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, you know, maybe it's good that those files were corrupted thanks to Apple with their stupid random update that just randomly corrupts files. Yeah, so I lost all the footage. But anyways, so I took it apart. I found that the spring for the safety plunger was not just bent, but had a coil that was broken. So I sent an email to Smith Wesson letting them know, okay, here's the problem, with pictures to show to them what the problem is. You would think that this picture would be enough to help someone understand and identify what's wrong with this. I mean, I'll let you guess. What is wrong with this picture? Believe it or not, it took me 16 emails just going back and forth because they kept shipping the wrong part. Listen, I don't want to go back to my initial video and how I was ranting about their customer service, but let me just say this. I'm gonna let you know, in case you ever noticed, AI is already here. And I'm talking Allen Iverson. If this picture isn't enough for you to know what's wrong with a firearm that you make, don't be mad when they pick a robot to do your job. Don't be upset. But you know how these, you know, corporate America, you know how they work. If they can find a way to get you off their books, they will. Don't give him a reason. 16 emails just to get the correct part. It felt to me like a joke. I asked him, I'm like, is this some kind of inside joke? Are you guys trying to deter me from just following through with this thing? Like, is this done on purpose? And mind you, I talked to 3 different people. All 3 of them sent me the wrong parts. They didn't send me a spring. The one that's bent and broken, they sent me the plate that covers it. Second shipment, they sent me a striker spring. And then I think on the 3rd shipment, that's when they finally sent me the correct spring. And what else did they include in there? Oh yeah, they sent me the spring and then with the screw that keeps the the plate in place. It was just, oh man. But I guess the positive in that is that it forced me to learn about this platform, you know, how parts come together, work together, whatever. So I'm pretty familiar with the slide now because I had to do my own gum smithing. I'm making a big deal out of this for this very specific reason. If you're new to firearms and this happened to be your first gun, mind you, when I reached out to them, they asked me to ship it back. I wasn't even sure what the issue was. They asked me to ship it back and I tried, but I didn't go through a FFL. They told me that they were gonna send me a label and that should be enough. I go to FedEx and they tell me I need more labels. I know that it's our duty to know our laws, state laws, and federal laws. It's our duty to stay informed and up to date. If you don't know your laws, you can end up being a felon just by them sending you a label and tell you to ship it back like it was a pair of socks or like you're returning a Bluetooth speaker. Like, come on, man. Like, I understand, it's not their role, but a reminder, I believe, maybe in the email, hey, you may want to check your local and state laws to make sure you don't become a criminal by sending something to the manufacturer, something they messed up on, back to them and end up in jail for that. From the new gun owner perspective, that can be pretty frustrating, especially if you grabbed it for the first time, first firearm, because I don't know, as of late, there's been a lot of break-ins in your neighborhoods, cars being broken in, you're a single mom or a family with both parents and kids, but you live in a neighborhood where criminals are supported and encouraged, and crime is, becoming the norm. You may pick up this thing and not be able to use it. and have to figure out, do I send it back? What are the risks? If you don't know anything about firearms and don't even know that we have contents like this on YouTube, you may not even look this up. And you know, with YouTube and their censorship and all that stuff, they may actually keep some information from you. That's why they keep censoring people like us. And all it is information. And they know. They can tell the difference between gangbangers, people you wish never even knew firearms existed, and responsible, law-abiding citizens that actually carry this thing to protect. They can tell the difference, but they choose not to. So that kind of content can be suppressed from you. From that, you know, perspective of, you know, new gun owner and this doesn't work, send it back, and then I'm finding out that I need some extra labels and blah blah blah, and even having to ship it. Let's say if that person ends up shipping the gun back through the FFL, that's another week, 2-3 weeks without their firearms, and God knows what happens in between that time where they can't protect themselves, their wives, children, whatever, family, friends. That's what I found frustrating. No sense of urgency. I mean, I emailed them on the 4th. They probably responded after 10 days or so. And from that time, just kept messing up shipments after shipments. I had to send them a diagram of an M&P 2.0, and I circled the parts that I needed so they know what I'm talking about. Because it didn't sound like they even knew they made those parts, or that the M&P 2.0 came with these parts. So annoying. But you know, for me it's fine, and it's one of the guns that I own. But for somebody that, you know, if this was your first firearm and this is your experience, unacceptable. But it happens, okay? I'm not saying that this is unique to Smith & Wesson, but put yourself in the shoes of someone that just got their first firearm and it's critical for them to have it because of their current living situation or whatever. And the first thing that they have to do is make something that was supposed to come ready to work. Outside of that, I think that this can be improved. You know, after I got this all sorted, by the way, if you are into polishing internals and stuff like that, don't even waste your time trying to polish this bar. This bar doesn't even scrape against the side of the frame at all. Like it's clear from the frame. Trust me. All the grittiness, it comes from the trigger bar coming in contact with the safety plunger. And the safety plunger within that channel, when it moves up and down, it's rubbing against those walls, and the spring is also compressing, rubbing against the walls of the so you have the plunger channel, you have the plunger itself, and then the spring in the middle. Okay, the spring is rubbing against. So if you can polish all of that out, you'll get rid of most of this thing. Proof is, I'm not recommending this, but as I was, you know, trying to fix this thing, I ran it with that safety block or safety plunger or whatever you want to call it, and no grits whatsoever with that ugly clown looking trigger shoe. Let's talk about things that I wish M&P can do to improve, maybe on a 3.0 version, I don't know, or 2.5. Either get rid of this or move your optic further back, because this, I'm not flagging myself, relax. This right here, I can't see through this. And this is only with 200 rounds, and I may have wiped it by mistake. This thing just get fouled, okay? Like crazy. And yeah, I know, what's their name? Calculated Kinetics came up with some plates, so that might be the only option for this specific model. So there's that improvement. I think they can do better. I don't know, is this thing on Ozempic or something? Like there's nothing. Speaking of the frame, it feels weird. I had to change back straps multiple times just to find what works for me. But it's kind of funny to have a back strap that's like swole in the back, but like super skinny in the front. It feels like I'm holding two pieces of something. Baby, you here? Yeah. Okay, that was fast.
Hi, YouTube.
The disrespect. As I was saying, yeah, so as far as like improvements from the factory, I think that if they can get rid of this and be more generous, you know, with this with this magwell, that would be a good thing. But you know, again, aftermarkets, we have enough parts out there to kind of make up for the shortcomings of this firearm. So there's that. Other than that, I think it runs just fine. Feels great, perfect size. I really look forward to when I have everything sorted out. I'm gonna keep shooting it with the Team Knee Sear Spring for about 200 rounds, and if it runs reliably, then I'll just keep it in there. If not, I'll have to switch it back to the OEM one. All right, so with that said, M&P, I think it's a good buy, well built, but I want to get familiar with this, shoot it a little more, get used to this, because there's one more thing about this firearm that I find pretty weird every time I hold on to it, is the distance created between my middle finger here and my trigger finger. It's a little wider than what you get on, say for instance, when I hold the M&P, it almost feels like this knuckle is being pushed further down. It's gonna take some getting used to, but anyways, I'm done. This video is just way too long. I had a lot to say. I'm glad I got it off my chest. Now I can go for a swim. I hope you guys are doing well. Sorry for the long video, the rant or whatever, but you know, if you watched till the end, I really appreciate you. My goal this year is to restore everyone's attention span. You guys stay safe, be well. I'm out.
My name is the wife. And clearly he's using my space, so I'm gonna make some noise. Hey babe.
Hello.
C'est bientôt fini.
Hello.
I'm looking for something in the no, bear with me guys.
They'll never hear you, so.
I know that's right.
You getting chopped out of the video.
Chop, 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 make a chop.
Babe,
Chop,
my
make
camera
a
is about to
chop.
die. Are you done? Tu viens toujours à la piscine avec moi?
Hey,
Non?
mon frère, tu as vu l'état de mes cheveux?
You can put a do-rag or something.
Please, do I look like I should do that? No, I need to detail my hair.
All right,
wash my hair.
no problem. I'm about to go because I'm hot. Well, do.